Good afternoon, friends. I'm Kailash Chaudhary. I'm the operation head of Rajasthan. So today we are here basically to discuss the very important topic and take the valuable insights from our thought leaders of the safety domain. Today we have with us a very tall personality and a very accessible leader. Anybody can call him, anybody can approach to him. Mr. Josy John is a corporate safety head of TATA Consulting Engineers. Mr. John will be sharing his thoughts with us today. Then we have with us a very eminent personality and active contributor in the knowledge sharing. I used to take many learnings from him. Mr. Ravi Somani is Executive Vice President of Jindal Steel and Power. And also we have with us a very dynamic young leader. I'll say a model of safety domain. Mr. Ajay Kumar Sharma, he is Chief Safety Officer of BALCO India. And beside all these, we have another great leader of safety domain, Mr. Pannalal Soni. Soni sir, are you there? You're not visible actually. So we'll be discussing about today's topic. The topic is very interesting topic, human dynamics in the behavioral dynamics rather in the safety management. On behalf of all participants, I take this opportunity and it's my pleasure also to welcome all of you on this session. To begin with today's session on understanding the dynamics of human behavior, friends, safety and safety management system as per se is not capable to implement the safety culture, is not capable to develop the safety culture without the genuine participation and continual improvement of the human endeavor. Without human endeavor, you cannot do. Let it be a world-class safety management system. Let it be a very good safety management system. But the genuine participation and the continual improvement in the human endeavor needs, then only you will be able to do that. A very famous saying which says that paper cannot save people. Only people can save the people. So there are many factors in safety management that contributes to the safe workplace, which have nothing to do with the process actually, like the management commitment to the safety, like the ability of the people to have meaningful conversation on safety, like the genuine care and empathy with the workers, with the of the line management and the safety professionals and all. So friends, if we all are able to convince the workforce and even to the management that it is okay not to be okay, then we can create an environment of openness, we can create an environment of fearlessness, we can create an environment of creativity. So without taking much of your time, I'll request Josy John sir to initiate the discussion with his insights. Josy sir, over to you.
Thank you, Mr. Chaudhary, and also a special word of welcome to the fellow panelists and the rest of the team who have signed in to listen to some of us who would be out speaking here today. Now, when we talk about safety, it is all boiling down to protecting human lives. Everything else is secondary. Property is secondary, environment is secondary. Why? Because unless you have protected a human being and you create a safe environment for him to exist, the others cannot happen. So unless you have a human being who is basically healthy and in a good environment, he's not going to take care of the environment around him. He's not going to take care of the property which is under him. Human beings have a wonderful quality. They have a good, out of the world, or what you can say, fantastic cognitive process in them. What is a cognitive process? A cognitive process, a cognitive way is that you receive information, you're able to process the information, and based on the information that you have received, you are able to take action. Now, this cognitive function can be through your five senses. Right now, the most important cognitive function that is happening or facilitator is the hearing process. I am here speaking something that is going into your brains, and your brains are responding accordingly, trying to lap in what I am trying to tell you and try to understand what it is. So a human being has a very strong cognitive process. In fact, his whole existence circles around this cognitive process. This cognitive process is what decides what he has to do, what he should not do. Whether when he's hungry, it's the same cognitive process which tells him what is the kind of food that he has to eat. Now, for example, he's got a glass of water, he's thirsty, he's seen a glass of water. He takes that glass of water and he takes a sip of it. If it is nice, plain, simple water, he will continue drinking with it. But if it's maybe a bitter, if it's got some Karela juice added into it, and the moment you take it into your mouth, immediately your process, the cognitive process tells you it is not good for you, it does not taste good. Okay, some people do like Karela taste, that's a different issue. But by and large, you will just spit it out of your mouth and you will be so angry. Who's the fellow who's put this Karela juice here? They know that I like only water. So you have a cognitive process that is functioning 24/7, I would say. It is not something which you can just lock out. Even when you're sleeping, your brain is working. Now, in a room which is very dark, you suppose you switch on a light. Some people have the ability to slightly open their eyes. Open their eyes. Some may even jump out of the bed. You are sleeping, somebody taps you. Immediately your brain says, look, somebody is tapping you. Please jump up. And you immediately wake up to find out who it is. So our whole human beings are defined, or everything that they do is based on these cognitive functions. Now, when it comes to safety, you have something else which this cognitive process triggers off. It tells you when you have to take care that you protect yourself. You are protective as well as defensive. I always say that if I have a group of people who are sitting in front of me in training sessions, I walk close to a person, I just put my hand to that person's eye. What does the person do? The first reaction is to close your eyes. Your brain has immediately said, here the hand is coming to attack you. If you allow the hand to come all the way through, your eyes are going to get damaged. So how quickly the cognitive process has worked. So different in situations will give you different reactions or responses. I would say a reaction is what you do immediately. A response is you are thinking through the process and then giving an answer to it. So that is how all human beings function. So you have cognitive by nature, you have a defensive process working within you, you have a protective process also working within you. And all human behavior goes in that manner. Now, when it comes to the workplace, the cognitive process plays a big part. All human beings, by default, there are certain things which they will take care of their own selves. Just like as I told you, something coming in your direction and hitting your face, you will immediately take evasive action. That's there which is immediate. But when you're doing your work as part of a process, there are so many things which are hidden, which are not known to you. And this becomes a challenge at the workplace. And that's where you have to look at how do you train the human mind to respond to certain situations. And today in our country, most of my professional career has been in the construction industry. I have spent time in the manufacturing industry also. Construction industry, we have a huge challenge because we are getting people, we are just picking people from the farms. They come to our construction site. They spend about 3 or 4 months there and then they are gone. And they are quite young. And when it's younger people, there's always the ability, the chances of taking risks is very, very high. Most of these young men do not even have an understanding of what construction industry is all about. I remember years back when I was involved with the construction of the Mumbai airport as the safety head over there. It was a live airport, so you had a lot of passengers coming in and going out. So always you find a lot of these young people going and standing near the place where the passengers who alight from their cars or taxis, and they'll just stand there and observe what they are doing. Nothing else. They just come there to see what those people are doing. And some of them make that extra effort to go and see some, because a lot of even film stars used to turn up there to catch flights. So they just want to see what was happening around. So they are not understood that they've come to a workplace and they have to carry out work. And when they're going to carry out work, there is a likelihood of hidden hazards being there. Because I told you that these people are coming actually from farms. They have not seen these kind of hazards which they would find on a large construction site. And today the construction sites are becoming more and more complex equipment are coming. You're going higher and higher, deeper and deeper. And somebody who has not had this kind of an understanding, he would be not at all aware of what are the hazards. I particularly remember when we were building the air traffic center tower in Mumbai airport, that's at 83-meter height. One day, one of my staff just goes up the last level. It's actually through a trapdoor. He goes up. When he looks out, you find a fellow sitting at the ledge, sitting against a pipe which was fixed there as a barricade, and he's on his mobile phone looking out there. He has not realized, and he's got a full body harness on himself, but he has not even clipped it. He is just sitting there, leaning back and looking out at the planes coming and going. And then I checked. He was not given a proper training in order to be put on that job. For him, he's come like as a tourist, and he's enjoying those aircraft taking off and landing over there. I mean, the safety officer, he got a shock of his life. Because he slips, he goes all the way down 83 meters. So this young fellow has no clue of what are the hazards facing there. So it becomes all the more important trying to understand how the dynamics of the mind works. Mind dynamics is very, very important. Having spent a lot of time in the Middle East, where you have a mix of nationalities working. On the one hand, you have Westerners who have a very high appreciation of safety. Their understanding levels by default is much higher, because in that society, human life is always valued much more. Whereas on the other hand, we have people who come from the subcontinent as well as the Eastern nations, all the way down to Philippines or to Vietnam. And then, of course, on the Indian subcontinent, India, Pakistan, Bangladesh, Nepal, Sri Lanka, where they're not at all aware of what is a hazard, what are the hazards entailing in a job. And then you have the typical Arab way of working. Everything is inshallah. That means it has God will that it has happened. So you have a very curious mix of cultures there. And it used to be a very big tightrope walk to ensure that we have a solution with which we can go forward in managing these whole three groups. You have the Westerner who has a very high regard for human life and safety. On the other hand, you have the subcontinent people who do not know anything about it. They also have a very fatalistic approach. And in the Middle East, you have a definitely fatalistic approach. There are guys who drive at 200 kilometers down the road, he meets with an accident and again says it was God's will that he go and meet with an accident. But remember, he's driving at 200 kilometers speed, whereas the speed limit is only 120 kilometers. So it all boils down to what is happening in the mind. And today that's a huge challenge that we have. We need to train the mind to understand what is basically hazards, what are the risks, what are the control measures. And these all depend on the perceptions that individuals really have. And the most important bedrock, I would say, in any safety management system is, in my personal belief, is to understand that human life is precious. The sanctity of human life has to be kept at the bottom. That it's only on that everything else comes in. In birth as well as in death, you are the same. There is no change. But in that in-between span of time, depending upon the circumstances that you have come up, some can become a president, some can become an ordinary laborer, some can become a multimillionaire, some can be a professional doctor. So many different things happen. That all depends upon the person. And now, with this coronavirus, which is all over the place, it has not distinguished any class of people. Any class of people. It can happen to the poor man on the road, as well as the most powerful man politically in the world. He and his wife is also now have caught the virus. So nobody can actually be exempted. So you look at human life, it's the same. Whether you're in the West or the East or the South or North, wherever you are. So that fundamental understanding of taking care of others should what mold your thinking about safety. Unless that is really ingrained in you, unless that comes in, it will not really do. I would say it's like do unto others as you would like them to do to you. If you expect that person to keep you safe and keep you well, you also do the same to the other person. It doesn't say that do to Chaudhary and he will return to you. It is a very general statement. And this is the beauty of safety. I would say if all of us around the world agree on this fundamental, simple understanding, this world will be a very safer place. In fact, this is something which Jesus said. I'm a Christian, so I just used what Jesus said. Take care of others. Others will take care of you. And we are actually experiencing it in so many different ways in our life, isn't it? You get onto a metro train. Do you just trusted the metro train operator or the driver to take you from place A to place B? And you are just put your trust in him. He is taking you. Similarly, he is putting trust in the signal systems. So you see, it's a whole cycle that actually happens. The moment you look at it in this very simple manner, you will find the whole safety culture will start changing. The mind will start looking at in a different way. Now, we have a lot of information that actually flows between people. I'm actually saying a lot of things. It's all getting into your mind. Your mind will then process that information. As I said in the beginning, the cognitive process will process that information. But when it comes to safety and looking at other people's minds, your will should commit. And that is your heart. The will is in your heart. So this information which is actually in your mind has to go down to the heart, and your heart should say, yes, I should take care of that person. I should do everything possible to prevent that person getting injured. That is what the responsibility as a fellow worker as well as people up the line comes. So I put this challenge before all of you. Start looking at the mind and the heart together. You need to travel a huge distance. This 12-inch distance is a huge distance for many people to travel. It is there in the mind. Of these days, we are doing a lot of webinars, a lot of information is being collected. It's all getting stuck there. But to get it into action, it should travel down into the heart, which is just 12 inches away. And that is the greatest distance a person has to travel in his life for any decision to be taken. So that understanding comes in first, the believing comes in there, and the next step is to actually start practicing it. So safety is nothing but an understanding, believing, and practicing process. And if this is the approach that we put across in our management system, you don't need volumes of papers for management system. Sometimes organizations ask for a safety plan, they'll dump about 500, 600 pieces of paper before you. And if you as a contractor or somebody who's prepared it and said, I'm giving this for submitted for getting it approved, don't believe that whoever is approving is going to read all the 560 pages. I doubt anybody really does it. Let's be honest on that.
Yes.
We need to understand that what we need to is, I always say, keep it simple and sensible.
Yes.
And that today, sensibility is what we have lost. Safety, we all say, is common sense. But unfortunately, that is the most uncommon thing that we find today. And most of the accidents that we find are because of not using a common sense approach. Even safety officers. Today, we have young safety officers. They come, a lot of them get in touch with me and say, so what all qualifications I need to take in more? I have only one simple answer to everybody. Safety is not a qualification-based career. It is an experience-based career. You have to be a person who keeps your eyes, all your senses open all the time in order to be a good safety officer. And you should be able to react and respond. Your eyes and ears should be, when you're traveling down the road, look out for hazards. How do you control them? I'm not telling you that you just jump out of your car and control them, but get your thought process working, because tomorrow you can also be faced with the same situation. So human behavior is essential, but human behavior essentially starts when linking your mind and your heart together. So that 12-inch distance, if you're able to integrate together, you will definitely have a society which is going to be safe. Your personal safety will be started to see in the public safety. To understand the culture of safety in a place is just go and look at the traffic on the streets. That will be an indicator of the safety of any city or any place in the world. And the more controls we have, it becomes all the more difficult unless it comes up from within. But at the same time, you need to keep a controlled environment. It's like Mumbai has a very limited metro service that is from Ghatkopar till about a little beyond till Warsaw, which is beyond Andheri. Now, Ghatkopar and Andheri, these are two important stations. One is from the Central Railway, one is from the Western Railway. People who come on the suburban track on the Western Railway will get down at Ghatkopar. And if they want to get on to the Central Western Railway or get in between somewhere, what they do is they get off this train and start running, pushing, etc. and they'll get to the metro station at Andheri. Soon as they enter the metro station at Andheri, these wild animals, I'm putting in inverted commas, become very domestic animals, very, very well behaved. Because they've come to a situation where they are going to be put into a very disciplined regime. They know the kind of pushing and pulling which they did in the suburban train, that is not going to help them to get onto a metro train. And they get into the metro train, they will not hang out of the train, but the moment the doors start closing, they immediately step back. And they will not wait for the next train to come in. And they will stand behind the yellow line. Absolutely. And when they get off at Andheri station, they will do the same things. And once they're out of the metro station, they go back to their wild ways. This is how human beings are, you know. This is the essential way that human beings behave. So, as safety practitioners, we have to engage with people. We have to engage with the management to create conditions where people have to work and behave in a safe manner. And this has to be brought in all levels. And that is what brings in discipline, brings in a society which will take care of each other. So I just want to sum up what I said. So it's a matter of your understanding, letting your cognitive processes work, sometimes immediate reactions, sometimes responses. But within you, you need to have a commitment in your heart that I will take care of my fellow brother. I am not going to hate him. He is my fellow brother. He is a person like me who's born like me. I will not create a condition that is going to harm him. So that is the bedrock of safety with which we really need to work. And we have to start disseminating this information across our organizations. And believe me, you will definitely see change happening within your organization. So thank you very much. But questions can be asked in due course, and I will definitely be in a position to answer.
Very well.
Thank you very much.
Very well said. Very well said, sir. Very well said. And this is everybody. I'll listen. I hope everybody will take this information and act accordingly. So going ahead, moving forward, I'll request Ravi sir to say his insights, if he can share his experience or on the human behavioral dynamics. Then he's having around 35 years of experience. It's a very vast experience on manufacturing, on plants, on projects. So now the Ravi sir will be sharing. So Ravi sir, over to you, sir.
Okay, thank you, Kailash. Before I start, just I have one disclosure to all the participants and my fellow panel members. I have left Jindal Steel and Power Limited with effective from 30th September 2020. So I am not representing today the Jindal Steel and Power Limited. I am talking as an independent safety officer today on this forum. So it is just a disclosure so that everybody knows that it's not that I am representing the JSPL. Okay, Josy has, very well explained the dynamics of human behavior. It's very, elaborating things he has shared with all of you. But I would like to take this discussion to the next level. I just want to understand, and I just want to ask a question to all the participants: whose responsibility is to change the behavior of people at the shop floor? Whose responsibility is it? So that's a $1 million question, which most of the safety professionals are not able to address, and even the top management is not able to understand whose responsibility it is. Behavior is a very complicated matter. It's not a very easy matter, that, and it's believe me, it's very difficult to change a behavior of a person. So, and I am not a very good advocate of behavior based safety in the organization. I do not advocate it much, though it's also a very important part of any organization to improve the safety culture in that organization. But I'm not very much, focused on the behavior. Rather than, I would like that the employers and the business houses should go into the details, whether their plants, whether their processes, whether their technologies are safe to operate, whether the workplace is safe to work. If your workplace is safe, then probably the behavior, we can adjust with the behavior. If you have to design your plan in such a way when a person, if he want to do the mistake, even then, even though he will not be able to indulge in an accident. So that's very, very important part. But you cannot deny that behavior is also a very important part. You give a person whatever the best designed and safest designed plant, but if he want to do a mistake and if his behavior is unsafe, that unsafe behavior can convert, even a safe plant to convert to a disaster situation. So point is that whose behavior is important in the organization. So my point is to understand from this webinar and to give some more details on this webinar, that who is responsible to ensure that everybody in this organization behaves safely, which is a very difficult, which is a very complicated, part of any safety systems, the changing the behavior of human being, because every human behaves in a different way in different situations. So for example, just take a very simple example. When you are at home, your behavior is different. When you are talking to your wife, your behavior is different. When you are talking to your child, your behavior is different. When you are driving something on road, your behavior is different. When you are talking to your boss, your behavior is different. So your behavior is, at every moment, your behavior keeps on changing. So what sort of behavior we want from the people when they are working at the shop floor? That's $1 million question. And who should measure that behavior? What should be the techniques of measuring those behavior? How we can measure that the percentage of safe behavior in this organization is this level today and where we want to reach? So point is, behavior is very important, but it's a very complicated complicated thing to change, and everybody of the organization has to be engaged. Josy has very well told in his discussion that engagement is a key actually. Engagement and involvement is the key. Whether it is implementation of the safety systems, or it is to ensure the safety practices at the shop floor, or to ensure that the people behave safely at the shop floor, it's the responsibility of everyone. Now, this is another dynamics of the human behavior, that everybody's responsibility is nobody's responsibility. If you say that everybody is responsible, then you see nobody is responsible. He will say that this is his responsibility, I will say it is his responsibility, and everybody will put the blame on each other, but nobody is ultimately responsible for the safe behavior of the people. So what actually I have done in my 35 years of careers, as far as behavior is concerned, I have given this responsibility of ensuring the safe behavior at shop floor is the engineer in charge, the person who is directly in charge of that particular job under which these people are working. Now, safety officer also works sometimes as an in charge, engineer in charge. Everybody in the industry work as an engineer in charge sometimes or other times. So if I ensure that these a group of persons who is working for me, and the task which is given to me, I am responsible for executing and completing the task in a given time or given quality or whatever the parameters have been assigned to that, I have to ensure that everybody in that area works safely. But unfortunately, it is not happening in India. Not in India, actually. I have moved all around the world. I have seen all around the world. Ultimately, the responsibility of safety has not gone into the mind of the people, those who are directly executing the jobs. It is ultimately given to the responsibility to someone else. And that's the problem. And India specifically is still, the people feel that safety means the safety department. Whatever is being done in the organization, whatever is happening in the organization, when the safety word is added, it's the safety department responsibility. Very few organizations and very few safety professionals are available in India, those who are able to change the mindset of the top managements, including the owners of the organizations, those who understand that it's not the safety department responsibility, it's the responsibility of people, those who are operating the plants, the people, those who are completing the project, those who are involved in the construction of the projects, or completing the projects in time, in the given quality, and all the parameters, whatever you say. If they take this responsibility, they own it, that yes, I am responsible for everything in my boundaries, then only things will improve. So I throughout my 35 years of careers, I have always focused my safety systems implementations, that these implementation part of the safety systems lies with the top people, the top management persons, including the chairman and directors and the HODs and section heads and the engineering charges, those who are involved in the execution of the agency. That moment organization understand that, the moment an organization understand that, the safety culture begins in that company. See, many times I have developed tools how to measure the behavior. It's very easy to explain the behavior. That behavior is very complicated. It is difficult to change the behavior. Everybody behaves differently in the different environment. All things are understood. But how to measure whether the person is doing the behavior safely or unsafely? How to measure it? I have developed in many organizations the tools, one A4 size papers tool, and I just wanted that this paper has to be used by the executive engineers, those who are executing the activities. Believe me, it is hardly 10 to 15% engineers, those who get engaged into the systems, because they keep themselves away from all these things. They are focused on the production, progress, quality, money, finance, and all these things, profitability of the organization. Everybody is involved in that. Hardly a percentage of people are there in the organization, those who are really, mean that the behavior of the person has to be safe, so that this industry, there should not be any organization. So the implementation part is very important. If you are able to convince your management, if you are able to convince your engineers, if you are able to convince your section heads and HODs that it's your responsibility, then life becomes easy. Now your job is only to just develop the systems, take the inputs from the all concerned for developing that systems, right? Hand over these systems to the line managers, and later on ensure that the systems are working as per the intentions, and just keep on monitoring and just let them update. You update them from time to time, maybe weekly or monthly or fortnightly, that this is where we started our journey and this is where we are, and these are the reasons why we are left behind. If this culture, if this kind of review mechanism on the behavior safety starts, then probably I think that the whole organization safety culture will improve. So that's my take on this. Important thing is there are many tools, there are many theories of ABC model and this and that. There are many theories on the safety culture, but my worry is basically teaching those theories, discussing those theories, discussing those dynamics is one part. Whether people, those who are really responsible for ensuring the safe behavior at the shop floor, whether they understand it, whether they own it, Once you are able to transfer the ownership to the right people, then the safety journey of safety culture begins in the organization. So that's my take on this. As we move on, if some more discussions are there, I will be very happy to respond. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir. Thank you very much, sir. So, Ravi, sir, very, very well said and very pertinent question. You asked whose responsibility is this? You're 100% right. My point is that when we say ABC model and this model or that model, the person who is responsible for implementing, for giving training, for monitoring, whether that person himself knows how the behavior, what are the behavior drivers are there, how the people behave in certain situations. If not at all, at least if he must be knowing something which are the inherent human traits. True. So that must be taught to the responsible person first. So anyway, we'll be covering that point also in the next this thing after Mr. Ajay's talk. So now I'll ask Ajay sir to say on the topic his experiences.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Kailash. Good evening, everyone, and thanks, Mr. John and Mr. Ravi, for sharing their thoughts. Like Mr. John said, cognitive process. So that is there in everybody's mind, and then mind process certain information and give results. Now the ability to do this is different for everyone, every individual. And as we know that 130 crore individuals who are there in India, so everybody is born different. He is learning, the way he learns is different, their family values are different. So now when they are grown up, their education, what they take, their surroundings, environment, what they learn from there. So there are certain beliefs and values they gather. Now they come to our plant with those beliefs and values. Now
then after that, as Mr. Ravi was saying, whose responsibility is this? So this now becomes the responsibility of us to how we merge their individual values and beliefs to the organization values and beliefs. So unless and until we are able to do that, so there will always be a gap. And that gap leads to the differences between what we want to achieve and what we are able to achieve. So now, as we know that there are different ways how we align our individual workforce to the common goal. So as we already know different things about leadership involvement, and Mr. Ravi was saying that still there are many companies, most of the companies, leadership involvement is not there. But sooner or later it has come in many of the industries, many of the big industries it is there. Now it is going down to the second tier and third tier industries, like what we call it middle level and the small scale industries. So it will go down, but it may take time in India, as we know. And we were talking about Mr. Josy was talking about value of life. So individual value of life in India is very less. So that's why it is taking more time. So when we start valuing the individual life, and individual himself will start valuing his the value of his life. That what is the value of his life? What is the importance for him, for his family, and for the social network he is having. So when he starts understanding the life, the value of that life, then he will then we'll see a drastic change in behaviors. So because the value of life is less even for every individual, so that's why it becomes difficult to change their behavior, because they think that whatever they are doing is good. So they don't find anything difficult in that or anything problematic in that. Now, the second thing which I want to, Mr. Ravi was asking, responsibility of changing the behavior. So responsibility, I think, lies with not only the, he was asking about the engineer in charge. So it is the engineer in charge, but also like sometimes where we call line managers. So line managers and engineer in charge, those are the same people. So definitely they are, because they are with them 24/7, 8 hours, whatever the service they are doing in the plant. So they are with those people, those employees all the time. So the first line of responsibility is with them. Now, what is our role as a safety professional? So our role is to ensure that we give a free, we give knowledge to them, to the engineer in charge, line managers, and directly to the employees. You might be, agree with me that over the time, like 2010 onwards, we had a new revolution in India, a smartphone. Now everybody was having a smartphone. 2006, but that smartphone was not of much use. But in 2016 onwards, then Geo came. Now I am having abundant data also. Now my smartphone is there, I am having data. The knowledge is available online. Good knowledge is available online. Also, the other knowledge is also available, movies, videos, and all. So now people are more inclined towards them, those things. Movies, videos. You will find many people in the operational areas watching those videos or watching those movies, and maybe in the free time. But how can you use those technology platforms to transfer the knowledge, what you want to do to the individual? And those knowledge, you have to create that awareness. Yes, this knowledge is also available. So this safety knowledge is also available online. How we can use that to sensitize everyone that, yes, go to that channel or that YouTube channel and you will find this. You can use that to train your people, or you can use that anytime, anywhere, and to gather knowledge about this topic. So that those technologies we need to use to change the behaviors of individuals and to give them the knowledge. Now, from last few years, I am observing that a lot of focus has gone on training people and giving knowledge. But when we see the implementation part, so we are still lagging. So main issue is the implementation of that knowledge. So when I go to the ground, or when I go to my office or my shop floor, so how I am able to implement that knowledge, put it into work. So that still is missing, and that is the biggest missing link as of now, because now with the with last 3-4 years, more focus on imparting training, imparting knowledge, and with this social media. This knowledge transfer is at a very fast speed. So now our focus should move towards implementation of that knowledge on the shop floor. Second thing, third thing, we talk about behavior-based safety, like Mr. Ravi was saying, though he doesn't support in a big way the behavior-based safety. So I will not say that supporting or not supporting, but I will say yes, he is correct. Because when we talk about directly about behavior-based safety, so it means we are saying that behavior is a major issue. It means people is a major issue. So we are directly blaming people. कि भाई वो तो आदमी ही बुरा है, हम सब अच्छे हैं, हमारा सिस्टम अच्छा है. So no. So we should not just restrict to the behavior. No, there is a root behind the behavior. Why individual person is behaving that way? There will be a root cause. Either he will not be trained, either he will not be supervised, either he has not been provided with required resources, either the work environment is not proper. So there can be any number of reasons why a person is behaving in a particular way or unsafe way or what we call. So instead of identifying or blaming that person or those behaviors, we have to work on reasons behind those behaviors. Once we start working on reasons behind those behaviors, then only we'll start changing the safety culture of the organization. Otherwise, what will happen is we'll be working more on like action le lo, simple. So it is very simple. This person has done something wrong, so we can take action on him, consequence management. So no, the consequence management will not make a safety culture. It may help us in implementing like maybe we can say there will be some discipline will come in the organization, but not the safety culture. People will be doing something, but it will not be a culture. After some time, they will forget it. If the discipline will get loosened out, they will again start behaving like previously. So there is a difference between discipline and safety culture. So we have to work on developing safety culture. This will be a like hard work. So the shortcut will be taking action, but hard work will be working on those root causes and improving those gaps. So whatever gaps you identify while identifying those root causes, then we have to work on those, eliminating those. It will be a closed loop cycle. We will be working on continuously, but this will lead to a good safety culture development in our organization.
Yeah, thank you very much, Ajay sir. Very well said. And I will add here, when we say behavioral based safety and when we say amending somebody's behavior, actually, as per my understanding, we are jumping at the conclusion. We are not going why he is behaving in that particular way. What is the drivers behind that behavior? If we go to the psychological side of the human being, then we can tap that resource. Furthermore, if I add further, this is a fact and this is accepted fact that human mind is susceptible to the systematic errors. We can call it perceptual errors, we can call it systematic errors. We are born to have commit mistakes. We are prone to the shortcuts. Then this is applicable with everybody. I'll not say that line management is only susceptible or vulnerable, the workers is not there. This is a human traits which says that every human being is vulnerable to these, they are prone to the shortcuts. So the solution will only be if we can identify, if we can predict, and if we can control and mitigate the behavioral drivers, not the behaviors. If we try to suppress behaviors, if we try to amend behaviors, that will be taken in another way. What are the drivers of that behaviors? If we can do that, I think that will be more useful. Then the inherent traits in the current dynamic work environment, the safety officer must have, as per my understanding, must have three mindsets. First is strategic mindset. He must have a strategy. The strategy will be useful, like Ravi sir was telling, because when the responsibilities are thrown over your head, then you have to work strategically. Second point is he must have a psychological mindset, wherein he can understand the psychology of the people, why they are behaving in that particular way, and how he can align his requirements from that behaviors. He can take from that behaviors. For that, he must have an influential mindset. Correct. Till now, we were all having a command and control structure. Like Ajay sir was telling that we can punish somebody, we can put a discipline. The discipline and influential mindset will have a lot of difference. Because when you put a danda over his head, at that particular time he will do that, he will behave in that way, but in a subsequent operations, in subsequent task, that effect will not be there. In fact, that will have a counter effect rather. So today I'll add some more on this by showing one of my slides. Ravi sir was talking about the cognitive behavior. So this is basically how people take decisions. So this is a functioning of the brain. The brain is, if I take, is a central computer which controls all the functions of the body. The brain with the nervous system, if I say it is a central part of the computer, and the other peripheral connections which are connected to the all parts of the body is called a peripheral nervous system of the human body. So how the person receives that information, which in the initial Josy sir was talking about, we have a lot of information flowing all around. If you enter into the project site or in a plant site or on a shop floor, you will get many information. But this information, how this information is converting into a decision, a cognitive decision, how it is the human being is converting it. For that, we have 5 sensory organs. In the bottom, on the slide, if you see the 5 sensory organs, I think everybody knows about the 5 sensory organs. These are our eyes, our ear, our skin, then our tongue and our nose. So the sensory organs receives this stimuli in the sense that information which is available. That may be in the form of, in the visual form, that may be in an auditory form, that may be in a touch, or that may be environment change or something of that nature, that will be selected by the nervous system, which I was talking about, peripheral nervous system. So that information is selected. This information is transmitted through the spinal cord to the brain. When it enters into the brain, there comes the actual picture. When it enters into the brain, there are 2 parts of the brain. One part we call it a associate system, another part we call it a conscious system, or in short we normally say system 1 or system 2. So when it enters from the system 1, it is getting de-encoded, it is getting stored, then we are receiving that first. So when we talk about system 1 and system 2, so the system 1 is basically is an automatic system. It gives a quick reaction. It does not have any sense of voluntary control. Yes, Josy sir was telling about reaction and response. So it normally gives a reactions only. It does not give a response because there is no control it has. People jump to conclusions because of this. So this is what, and as per some research, 98% times the people take decision with system 1. People do not use system 2. Why they do not use system 2? There is actually system 2 requires efforts. There has to be some efforts. Then only the system 2 will work. So this is what is a human trait which is inbuilt. This only can be changed if suppose I am reminded every time that no, you are taking decision with your system 1. If the person is trained to think something, so that way we can train the people. The inputs of system 1, if not amended or not pinpointed, they will be accepted by system 2 in normal times. Without, so with this we can say that we are taking some decisions which are not well informed. When I say we are, I mean to say workers also. So this is how our system works. With this I'll ask one more question also with everybody. I'll request all of the participants to give the answer in the chat box, please. So this at the left hand side there is a bat and a ball. A bat and a ball cost rupees 550. The bat cost 500 rupees more than the ball. What is the cost of the ball? A very simple question. Everybody can answer, I think. So in this, the very general, normal answer will be that it is 50 rupees. But when you put a stress on your mind and when you go and in the deep and when you check that there has to be a difference of 500, then the cost of the ball will be 25 rupees. So that is why I have given this question here, because now you can understand that when I say the cost of the ball is 50 rupees, my system 1 is working. I am not working with my system 2.
Correct.
Right. The same way the second question. The question is Mohan is intelligent. There is a blank after that. So when I say Mohan is intelligent, there is a perceptual error. Somebody have a perception that the person who is intelligent must be smart also, must be honest also, must be handsome also. So without any information, I have made a perception that if Mohan is intelligent, he has to be honest. So that way, actually, we are taking decisions. Our workers are taking decisions. Our line managers, our engineers, our operators, everybody is taking decisions. If we are time and again reminded them, keep them reminding that whenever they indulge in such type of activity, then we can remind them. Need not to bully them, need not to say anything much on them. Just say, okay, you are doing this. So they will understand that. So this is why how the human being behaves. Now in the second, if I go the visual illusion, this is also a trait which happens normally. For this also, there is one slide on my screen. If you can read what is written in between these two figures. In between it is written Manu approaches bank today. Right? On the left hand side it is A, B and C. On the right hand side it is 1, 2, 1, 3, 1, 4. This is what normally we see. But if you put some more stress on this, you will find B and 1, 3 are similar, which is normally not taken, by the people. Again, this is another example where again my system 1 is only giving the answer. Same is happening with the figure 2. If you see the yellow line, it is exactly same with the line, but when I see the line which is far away, it looks a bigger one. Right? So why it is happening actually? The two lines are same in length when I see with my retina, but different distance from me. The both are having different distances. So this is my experience. There is information already stored in my brain which says that makes sense. Not see the actual object. My
system
brain
1,
is
system 2.
Yes, my brain is actually making a sense, and the sense says when these figures are far away, it has to be a lengthy one. Figure 3 also, both the lines are equal, but nobody will see, after seeing, nobody will say these are equal, but in fact they are equal. Same way this checkerboard also. So these are all traits which actually takes us and ask us to behave in one particular way. When I say that the visual illusion, what is the purpose of this visual recognition system, which we normally see at the sites? Anybody want to add something, sir?
Yes. Here actually, I just know before the discussions from you and Ajay, I took two things. Ajay
Yes,
was
sir.
talking about the consequence management. So I
Correct.
fully agree that consequence management will not bring the safety culture in the organization.
Ex-
It may help
exactly.
you to some extent to bring a discipline only. And if you ask me, probably the discipline will also not come, because
Correct.
people will follow something because of the fear only, because they think they will
Yes.
not adopt, they will not adapt anything by their heart. If you want to,
Yes.
if you want that your people will start behaving safely by their heart, right? And rather
Yes.
not they are behaving, but they are ensuring that others also behave safely. That's the real culture. Actually, we call it the independent safety culture. So it will
Correct.
take it's very good, the consequence management you also elaborated and he has also told. And I have
Yeah.
seen in the organization the managements, again I am coming to the
Yes.
management, because my target will always remain the management. Wherever I have worked in my total career, management will
Yes.
always ask you a question when something goes wrong: who is responsible for this and what actions you have taken against them. They are
Correct.
so keen about knowing all these things, and it becomes sometimes very difficult to explain to them that it's not the consequence which will bring the safety culture in the organization. It's basically the teaching and all the time talking to them. And the very important thing, Kailash ji, you discussed the
Ye-
identification. You have
Yes.
to develop the skills among the line managers or engineer in charges or the top management, that how to identify the warnings who are responsible for the accidents. And actually
Correct. Correct.
the skill development is the main job of the safety officers. And getting and bringing them to the engagement level and involvement level, that is this another important things. If you are able convince them, if you are able to to develop their skills of identifying or capturing the warnings which are responsible for the safety. See, just let me give an example. A worker at shop floor is doing something unsafe, whatever it is. He is not wearing
Yes.
ppes, or
Yes.
he is
Yes. Yes.
handling the tools unsafely, or maybe he is operating a plant in an unsafe manner, whatever kind of unsafe behavior he is demonstrating.
Mm.
And a supervisor pass through it, but he feels that he will be able to complete the job, and he ignored the
Correct.
unsafe behavior. Not to me, the biggest culprit of this prevailing of this unsafe behavior at the shop floor is the engineer, who is watching but he is not taking action,
Correct.
either
Correct.
knowingly or unknowingly. Sometimes he don't, he has not developed that kind of skills to observe this kind of behavior, and we says that this kinds of unsafe behavior can convert into a major accidents. Because the supervisor
Yes.
has not been given that kind of training, or that kind of skills has not been developed. So that is
Correct.
really, I 100% agree with all of you, Mr. Joshi, Mr. Kailash ji, and Ajay ji. Our responsibility being the safety professionals in India lies that we should be able to develop that kind of skills among the people, those who are executing the jobs. But whether they execute that job as per the intentions which we want is the $1 million question. And I'm 100%. I'm 100% in full agreement among the the discussion which you people have told, that culture is coming. It's not that we have not reached any level. We have reached somewhere, but it's a long way to go to reach to the world class standards of the safety culture.
Correct, correct, sir. Very right, sir. Very right. And sir, see, every standard in every safety system, so many volumes of documents are there. Everybody
Yes,
will say that we have the right to reject if it is unsafe. But do we really give that authority to a worker to reject? No. Do we give that behavioral safety to that the person? No. So main idea is that whoever is responsible for giving this training, monitoring, and giving the actual picture, finding out the gaps,
correct.
he must be trained. We must be knowing the psychology behind these things. So it is more of a psychological in nature than technical in nature, which John sir was telling in the beginning, that this is not a qualification based this profession. This is
It's
an
a,
experience based.
yeah, true.
So at the end, at the last, I'll show one video, and this video is very important when we when we see the limitations of human monitoring, basically. Just see the video.
I just wanted to say something particularly on behavior, and I am very much with Mr. Somani regarding this behavior-based training. I have seen, we have conducted so many sessions of behavior-based training and everything is fine. I would like to tell all these gentlemen who keep telling that nothing like that will happen. Just put something through a 1 hour or 2 hour training. And I myself personally, way back in, I think it was in 2004, got introduced to behavior-based training while I was working in the UAE. And at that point of time, I found it quite, quite much younger than now. So very interesting, immediately jumped into it. But then as I just started watching it, it became a training product that was being sold by trainers. And everybody jumped into it. And remember, this is something which is being presented or a product developed for an advanced world. Using that same thing to an Indian context where your safety culture is so low, it does not work. We do not even have the fundamentals of safety going. So when you do not have this, how can you expect a product, as the trainers say, can be applicable in our situation? So a society where human life is not valued, you can't bring in these things. It's like
you're right, sir. You're very right, sir. I would like to add one point here, sir. Actually, nobody wanted to be monitored. If somebody is having, I know somebody is monitoring me, my activities, I will not behave in a particular way. In fact, I am creating a situation wherein I can indulge unknowingly in an unsafe act.
Exactly.
Because my mind or my eyes is not on the task. My mind and eyes is on the monitoring.
So that's why I said, if you create an environment where you only have safe behavior, like I said, that metro example and the suburban network. So that's a very classic example of the same person behaving totally 180 degrees turned around. And as you rightly said, I would like to say that in 2003, I was in Europe, I was staying in a place, and I was just watching out of window, there was a huge puddle of water being, coming out. After 10 minutes, I saw a pickup drawing. This was 17 years ago. A couple of guys got out. They first put some barricades around the place, and then they went and parked their vehicle, and then they started coming to do their excavation. Now tell me, in an Indian situation, what would you do? You will come with some tools and straight away start digging. And then that suddenly somebody comes and says, hey, what are you doing here? We are digging. But what about barricading the place? That's when they, we have to get something. They run away to get some barricading material. And by then somebody would have fallen and that whole place would be a mess. So we are yet to really understand what is planning for a job and taking it forward. Now, organized places, okay, manufacturing in certain companies, it happens. But by and large, you have a huge kind of a lack of this cognitive process actually working. And that is where there's a huge challenge, and safety practitioners should look at this training aspect of not just another tick box. Okay, this year we have to do 15 training programs. At the end of the year, we finished everything. But that training should actually be followed up by, is it being reflected at your workplace? And that's where safety practitioners really have to make that extra effort. And that's how we will be able to understand what is the problem we have and how do we improve on it. And being in the construction, again, having multiple sites at the same time, I have seen Some projects do extremely well.
Correct.
But some projects, it's all finally, as we earlier said, it boils down to leadership. Some of them are not even bothered. They're not even bothered because they are not aware of what has to be done.
Correct.
So that's where this training
Yes.
part, knowledge enhancement, all these do come in.
Yes.
And I'm sure that a seminar, a webinar like this has added value to all of us, including me. I also learned a lot of new things today. So I just wanted to share.
Yeah, just one point on your comments. Actually, very good. You are told that even after people comes and sit for 2 hours, 2.5 hours, and the instructor is putting all his energy, sweat, and heart into to explaining the behavior and how to improve all these things. But these people just have a cup of tea and some biscuits and go away, and then you forget everything. That's true. But as again, you have corrected yourself that if your programs are engaging one, after the program, after completion of the training program, if they go along with some actions with them, that they have to display some actions, they have to do some actions in the field, and those actions will be, so their actions will be watched, or they will be, monitored. Then probably ultimately the thing is basically how we want to engage them after the learning.
Yes.
It's not only that calling them and bringing them into the classroom and then giving the training and then leaving them. After that, how we are getting them engaged is very, very important aspect of any training programs. If we are successful in getting them engaged, then some results you will get. I fully agree with you that you will not get 100% result, but some result will come because they feel that whatever I have learned, I have to turn all this learning into the action in the field, and I will be monitored for these learnings.
Exactly.
If you do that, results are coming.
Yeah. Sir, I'll add this into the trainings. Actually, my background is from defense. I am from the Air Force. In the beginning, every 15 days, the fire crews used to come. They used to give training. They used to tell us A, B, C, D type of fires. This is the fire extinguisher used. So after 2-3 trainings, what will happen? The slippery effect will come. I will not pay attention. अरे यार रोज ये आता है यही बात सुना के जाता है. Is it of no use? So this slippery effect is actually creeps in when we keep on training same module every day, every time, without involving the workers, without involving the participants. Basically, it has to be a participatory one. Cannot be a one-way communication.
And I always say when we are doing training, we have to appeal to the heart, not to the mind.
Yes.
Mind, the knowledge is always there. I always say, correct. Are you willing to change? That change happens only when you travel that 12-inch distance.
Correct.
And when that change comes, from tomorrow, you will see the action there.
Yes.
So whatever communication I have to say to people is, I'm speaking to your heart, because your mind is already saturated with knowledge. But you need to take out some of that knowledge and take it to your heart a little bit and bring in some small changes. And that should become an avalanche, and that whole person gets changed, that whole area will also get changed. So the biggest challenges.
Correct, Mr. Josy. The change will only happen when the heart will get connected. Otherwise, the change will not happen. We will be there where we are.
And I have experienced some very interesting kind of consequences of training. Very interesting type of consequences. When you always conduct a training program and you give some actions to them, and then those actions will be monitored, and the result will be published at the board of directors level, that this is what is happening on this particular topic, and this is the result. So I have seen its training program is organized by Ravi, Somani, and all the HOD section, and they will say, try to avoid. वो कुछ तो काम देगा जाएगा, तो वो जाएगा उसके क्लास में, वो कुछ काम देगा, that work will be monitored by the board of directors. They will ask question why you are not doing all these things. So these are very interesting kind of consequence of this kind of trainings are also there. So but you have to be moderate and you have to keep them engaged.
Exactly.
Once I used to, when I was working with Larsen & Toubro, I used to take this IOSH managing safely. So I finished one batch of guys. I used to do it every month, at least one batch. And so one particular site, the project manager asked me a question. What did you do to this fellow? I said, I have not done anything. He came and attended the training. I told him things which he already knows, but I said, I told him that he needs to change how he's been behaving. Because the first thing that he came back to the construction site, he said, I want to clean up the entire site.
Very good.
So I was very happy. At least that changed, and that brought him into a much more organized fellow.
It's a very big change, sir. It's a very big change. It means your training is very, very successful if this kind of mindsets are getting changed after the training.
Yeah. We need to think, we need to process information and get it down to our hearts for taking it to the next step.
Yeah.
Yes.
Behavior-based thinking is a product which is not a real kind of product.
It's not real type of. Yes.
As Tata Consulting Engineers, we are actually offering a training service for companies known as Your Safety DNA. And last year, we've done it for 3 or 4 companies. And it's basically a one-day program where we want to look at people. Do you want to change your safety DNA or do you want to still continue on the same? It's basically a heart and minds kind of a training which we have been doing, and we delivered multiple sessions on some of the big companies also. And unfortunately, the pandemic has come. It's a one-day program, and you can't run a one-day program on a screen.
Yes.
Maybe once the pandemic is over, we will probably resume it.
The connectivity is not there, sir. Definitely.
Yeah.
So as of now, we have around 45 participants. So I haven't received any questions as of now. If somebody want to say something, want to add some value to it, can raise his hand. I'll unmute him. He can talk to him.
Sir, I have one question. May I ask?
Yeah. Please go ahead.
So actually, thanks for arranging this session, sir. Actually, nice discussion. Sir, I have one question. Sir, how to change management mind to create a safe culture? One of the big challenge of a safety officer. So, how can easily understand, sir? That is why I want.
I can tell you something. My approach to management, all these is, I'm like a policeman with you. I will walk with you. I will hold your hands, and together we will walk. But when I see that doing something which is not in line with the management's policies, I will put a little pressure on your hand. You will feel the pressure. And then we'll continue walking. But again, if you're not willing to do it, I will start twisting your arm so that you start getting some pain. And even after that, you're not willing to work, I'll break your arm. So you need to have that kind of an approach where you will be able to persuade the person what, as we say, as walking the talk. Get them to understand that there's going to be a huge difference. And whatever you as a safety professional or a practitioner, they should be able to see that you are walking the talk. Forget about the leadership walking the talk. You first walk the talk, that will start changing them. The knowledge is there with everybody, but you need a change of heart. And that is, see, when we read so many today's modern world also, it's when we see or read an information of some suffering of some people, that's where the change of heart actually comes in. And then you make a decision.
Yes.
So
Very right.
that is where the whole thing comes. That genuineness should be felt. And most of the time, I told you, I do get questions. So in my career, what do I want? I want to become a manager. What more qualification? If a safety practitioner goes with that kind of an approach, the management is not going to change. It will never change.
My answer to this gentleman is basically don't get consumed yourself at the shop floor. My one point, direction and the advice to the safety officers: don't get yourself consumed at the shop floor. You work as a catalyst actually. You work as a catalyst which do not participate in the reactions, but he controls the reaction, how the reaction has to be done, what product has to be done, will we receive after the 2 reactants. That's your responsibility actually. So you have to identify the reactants, you have to envisage the product, and you have to work as a catalyst.
Exactly.
Then only your life will become easy. Don't get consumed at the shop floor. You just approach.
Very well said.
That's why I said that 12 inches distance is very short, but the time is indefinite.
Yeah.
And I would like to add, the leadership, the top leadership or the management. So there are many ways where we have to, like Mr. Josy was telling, like pinching and then twisting and then breaking the arm. So this way also, and there are many examples across the world or across India where we can show them that we are here not कि मतलब उनका पैसा खर्च कराना है. We are here to save them, save the company, save the people. And there are instances across the world, across India, where there are huge indirect costs, direct costs involved in case anything goes wrong nowadays. So we can tell them that we don't need to set an example by ourselves. We can learn from others and we can implement before that. So this is the best way we can convince the management that this is the main thing we are avoiding or eliminating.
Exactly.
Okay, sir. Let us wind up now. So
Okay.
we'll be
Thank you, Josy ji.
I'll be
Thank you, Kailash.
I'll be
Thank you,
sharing the
Ajay.
feedback to all. Sir, I'll be sharing the feedback to all of you, and we can plan accordingly in a future. If any time we want to have, we can align with our calendars. So thank you very much.